1850s, a small group of Southern Baptists decided to plant a new church in East Tennessee. A young man named Rhys Williams attended the first meeting. They went around the room and asked each person what they would be willing to sacrifice. After being overlooked, the young Rhys spoke up and said, "Excuse me, but you didn't ask me." Apologetically, the group asked Rhys what he would be willing to sacrifice, and he responded, "I'll give it all."
I didn't understand until I heard the story at his funeral where he said, "I will give it all." And that's exactly what he did all his life. He gave everything to Manley Baptist Church or to missions.
Man, he loved lost people. He was concerned for the souls of people. Over a 4-year period, there were probably a dozen times that he sat in my office completely weeping, broken over the lostness of someone he knew that he had shared the gospel with.
There'd been many a time that I'd be doing something and he would witness to this one or that one or the other one.
He scrapped. You know, he would do scrap metal. He was constantly stopping, picking things up. He would get wire that had just been left anywhere, and he would burn the plastic off so he could use the copper and sell the copper. As far as I know, he never sold a thing that he took the money for. Never. He gave it to the church. They never even wrote a check to him. It always went to the church. And I'm talking a lot of money.
A number of times he would catch me in the atrium, or he'd catch me in the sanctuary, and he'd say, "Pastor, I've got some money now. Where do you want me to give it?" And I would just say, "Rhys, wherever the Lord's leading you to give it." And he would say, "Well, I want to use it to where people can hear about Jesus."
He was 71 years old when he finally decided to get married. Instead of gifts for he and his new bride, he asked that donations be made to the Lottie Christmas offering. That's all he wanted. He wasn't interested in getting anything for himself. And that's how Rhys was throughout his life.
After Rhys's wife passed away, 3 weeks later at the age of 89, Rhys also entered the kingdom of heaven.
I buried him in his dad's suit. It was all he had. You know, he never bought clothes. He never bought things for himself. He didn't see that as important in this life. He saw that you could use money for a greater purpose.
When he died, they found a bag of money that had $20,000 in it that was marked Manley Baptist Church on the outside. I know that sounds eccentric, but I'm going to be honest with you, Rhys was eccentric, but he's a great kind of eccentric. He had a heart that was just huge.
If you walked into a room, he wasn't the first person you'd notice. He was very quiet, a very quiet man, a very humble man. He wasn't going to draw attention to himself ever. And yet, over the years, he was building something. He was preparing something. And what he was preparing was to leave everything he had, and I mean everything he had, for the purpose of the gospel.
This is a man who lived his life in such a way, you didn't know he had money. You didn't think, you know, that he had anything. But yet when he died, his estate was close to $1 million that he left totally to the Tennessee Baptist Foundation and to Manley Church. In the end, he gave everything that he had. He gave it all.
How can I make sure that what I do as a physician demonstrates the love of God and the mercy of God and the hope of God? From an early point in my childhood, I can remember watching the first moon landing on a black and white TV and thinking, I want to do that job. So I just pursued that. And then was able to get into an aerospace medicine residency program to work for NASA as a flight surgeon, providing health care for the astronauts and their families. It really was a dream come true. But In many ways, my identity was not as a follower of Jesus Christ, but my identity had become, I'm a flight surgeon working for NASA. I really didn't think that I would leave NASA. God said, you need to make a choice. It was in our living room. I was saying to God, this job is cool, but I don't need it. I need you. Whatever you want to do, I'm ready.
When he finally came to me and told me that this is what he felt called to do, I just said, I've been waiting.
God moved us to the country of Uganda, where we served for 12 and a half years. From there, moved south to Lesotho, and then God brought us to Kigoma Baptist Hospital, where we've been serving for the last 7 years. In western Tanzania. It literally is at the end of the road because we're right on the Lake Tanganyika. God has placed us in an area that is predominantly Islamic. Healthcare in our part of the world, there is a great limitation on resources that are available. We have patients that are admitted with severe malaria, dysentery. Every year we have an outbreak of cholera. We don't have the adequate numbers of resources and personnel on the field to be able to meet all the needs.
But we have partnerships with a number of different churches and on various levels.
When a church comes in and partners with us to provide that kind of care, it literally changes the people's lives, both physically but also spiritually. Using healthcare strategies is like a key that opens the door to get into a village that we might not have access to. Not far outside of the town that we live in is a small village.
Completely unreached on the fringes of town.
We met with local leaders and we asked permission to come to that village and do a week-long medical dental eye clinic. Through that opportunity, God used that to start a new church plant.
That village, there's been a huge impact.
Growing in their faith in Jesus Christ and being discipled. Just this past week, one person came and repented and said, no, I need this Jesus. The kingdom of light is coming in Tanzania, bursting through the darkness like we've never seen before.
Він працював в мене таксистом, і він розводив різних людей. І він одного разу віз 3 молодих хлопців. Вони почали хамити, вони почали угрожати. І так як у мого тата були з самого початку проблеми з серцем, і мій тато побіг до машини, щоб випити таблетки, але він не встиг, він помер прямо на місці. У мене були хороші стосунки з батьком. І це було важко почути.
When I first met Oleg, his dad just died, and I invited him to the youth group in our church. After a couple months being in youth group, he started praying to God, and then he prayed and accepted God.
І це було неймовірне відчуття, коли ти покаєшся і приймаєш Ісуса. Я зростав, я починав вже повністю читати Біблію, старався більше дізнаватись цікавого. І тут так само, неочікувано для мене, так само знову ж був переломний момент. В 7 ранку я встаю, і я чую, що мамі погано, і вона кричить на допомогу. І я підбігаю, і мама була дуже гаряча, і це була ужасна картина для мене. Вона щось хотіла мені сказати, і в той момент вона померла.
When we got the news about Oleg's mom's death, it was devastating. Through the love from the church, through the love from the God, he kept his faith. He's still in the church. He involved in the ministry. He involved in the Ukrainian Baptist Theological Seminary program for young leaders. And God gave him peace and encouragement. And God gave him healing through his love.
Коли я втратив своїх батьків, він відкрився мені як батько, і він дав мені церкву як маму. І літом ж недавно я прийняв хрещення, я поступив в семінарію. І я дуже радий, що я маю такого небесного батька.
Brazilians are so loud.
They're loving, they're kind.
And they are always laughing.
They're touchy-feely people.
They're very busy. If they're not at work or at school, they're stuck in traffic.
That's Brazilians for me. They're just so incredible, but human in the end.
They just have such a hard time trusting anything that comes after something you say about Jesus. They already have this idea, this false idea of who he is, and there's nothing about Jesus that is life-giving to them.
Então, você não deve fazer isso e aquilo, e se você faz isso, Deus não vai te amar. E isso me afastou muito de frequentar as igrejas e de Deus.
That's hard. It's hard to continue day after day when, Lord, why am I here when these people that like you've let me love, like you are not what they want.
And there have been plenty of days until today that I just want to give up. But I just keep reminding myself that the power of salvation is not in my hands, and it's all in Jesus. And he is so capable and so able of changing their hearts, because he has changed mine.
E aí teve dia que eu tava me sentindo um pouco triste e eu lembrei da Amanda. E eu decidi mandar uma mensagem para ela.
He ended up sending me a text one day and said, I'm upset. I'm not necessarily enjoying the way that my life's going, and I want to change. And in that moment, I just put it all out there and said, I'm doing about 500 things with my church today. If you'd like to come along, you're welcome to any of it. And she was like, absolutely. I was so surprised, but she said, absolutely, let's go.
With Amanda, the Brazilian Amanda, she actually asked me to study the Word with her. And just last week when we were reading, she was like brought to tears that God would love her even though she has come to the realization that she is a sinner, that she is separated from God. But the truth that he loves her when all she has known is that she's a sinner, God judges her. She was like, there's no other God who says this.
Ainda não sinto total confiança nisso, mas eu estou buscando e...
What love that he has demonstrated to her. Like, this city is huge, this world is huge, and he cares about the separation of one of his creation. That's crazy. I don't know. That's probably not video worthy, but that's crazy. I'm sorry. So the greatest thing ever happened last night. Yeah. Our friend Amanda chose to put her faith in Jesus.
I know that it's so real, and I know that the Holy Spirit is moving in her, and it's just amazing to see Amanda in the purest form and just understanding what she has won in Christ and the victory that He has won for her.
But now comes like the most exciting part of her knowing relationship with God, and God is going to use her to bring others to know Him and to, I mean, she has a redemption story. She has a from death to life story. This is a reality that God is saving people, and He is pursuing young adults in São Paulo, and He is not giving up.
There's a theme here that whenever I put myself out and I say, okay, God, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but every single time I take a step on mission, you seem to show up in a really compelling way. Resonate Church began 10 years ago as a campus ministry that turned into a collegiate church at Washington State University. Our desire is to plant churches on college campuses across the Northwest and across Canada as well. So every summer we have 24 to 40 students that are headed over to East Asia, and they are on campus. They're learning the language, they're integrating into the lives of East Asian students, and they're there being missional, sharing the gospel. Our staff members that are in East Asia long-term continue the discipleship with these East Asian students, and they ultimately deploy them back to the campus to be leaders. It's a beautiful situation. As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you. To understand God and to understand Jesus best is to see them as missionary actors in this entire narrative. So that begins to permeate through our church. It's our belief that what we do in East Asia allows us to be able to do what we do in Boise and in these college towns and in these church plants. If they go across the world, it's more likely they'll go across the street. What we want to be is a church that goes after those people who have no background in Christianity. And as people begin to read their Bible and they see Jesus as the sent one to us and then telling us to be sent ones to the rest of the world, they actually begin to believe that. And they're so easy to deploy on mission. And so this is what I love about the Northwest and about the spiritual climate here, is that it's so easy to be able to say, okay, this is what it looks like to be radically sent. We've got to be a sent people, and if that sent people can kind of begin to be the normative of our church, then what you begin to have is the beginnings of a movement.